Hey, TalkTickers listeners. We usually, we like to go deep on those earnings calls, but sometimes a breaking news story is just too big to ignore. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially when it sends a stock plummeting over 9% after hours. We're talking about McDonald's.
Right, MCD.
MCD.
Yeah.
And it's a situation that's, well, a little bit messy.
It's definitely one of those things where you see how unexpected events can all converge and create kind of a perfect storm for a company.
So it's October 22nd, 2024, and McDonald's, the golden arches themselves, are making headlines for two very different reasons.
Okay.
First, you've got an E. coli outbreak linked to their quarter pounders.
Oh, no.
And second, Donald Trump, in the thick of his 2024 presidential campaign, chose a McDonald's for a photo op.
Interesting.
Interesting timing, right?
Yeah, and that after-hours stock drop is a clear signal that investors are paying attention.
Oh, yeah. Our Talk Ticker listeners know this is a recipe for market chaos.
For sure.
So let's unpack this E. coli situation first.
Okay.
The CDC report is out, and the numbers are, well, not great.
Oh.
We're talking 49 cases across 10 states, 10 people hospitalized, and tragically 1 death.
And we're dealing with E. coli 0157. H7, particularly dangerous strain, can lead to some serious complications like hemolytic uremic syndrome or HUS.
HUS, that sounds pretty serious.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about that?
It's a condition that affects the blood and kidneys.
Oh, wow.
Essentially, the toxins produced by this specific strain of E. coli can damage small blood vessels, and that leads to kidney failure in severe cases.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It's especially dangerous for children and the elderly.
Wow. I had not realized it could be that severe. So where does the investigation stand right now?
Well, the CDC is still working to pinpoint exactly which ingredient in the quarter pounders is the source of the contamination.
Okay.
And that uncertainty, as you can imagine, is adding to the market jitters.
Makes sense. Investors hate unknowns.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to food safety.
Right.
So how has McDonald's responded so far?
Well, they've taken some swift action, which is crucial in a situation like this.
Okay.
They've pulled quarter pounders off the menu in several states.
Oh.
And halted the use of fresh slivered onions and those quarter pound beef patties as potential culprits. That's
a pretty big move, pulling a signature menu item like that.
It is, but it's a necessary step to show they're taking this seriously.
Yeah.
In a food safety crisis, transparency and quick action are absolutely key.
Right.
Helps to protect consumers, of course, but it also demonstrates that the company is committed to doing the right thing.
Which can go a long way in preserving their reputation, right?
Absolutely. Building and maintaining trust is paramount for any brand, especially one as iconic as McDonald's.
Let's talk about that market reaction for a second.
Okay.
MCD plunged 9.18% in after-hours trading, dropping from $314.89 to $285.80.
Ouch.
Ouch is right.
Yeah, that's a significant drop, but honestly not surprising given the circumstances, Remember back in 2015, Chipotle faced a similar E. coli outbreak.
Right.
Their stock took a major hit, too. It took them a while to recover.
So this isn't exactly uncharted territory for a fast food giant.
Right.
But the thing is, this time, there's another layer to the story.
You're talking about the Trump photo op, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, what does a presidential candidate have to do with an E. coli outbreak?
Yeah.
That's the fascinating part. Just a day before this news broke,
Okay.
Trump decided to hold a campaign event, complete with a photo op at, you guessed it, a McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
The timing couldn't be more ironic.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Right. So on one hand, you have this serious health scare unfolding. On the other hand, you have this highly publicized political event that's likely to get even more attention because of the outbreak.
Yeah.
It's like two narratives colliding.
And for McDonald's, that creates a very complex situation.
So let's dive into that complexity a bit.
Right.
How does McDonald's navigate this intersection of public health, politics, and brand image?
Well, it's a delicate balancing act. McDonald's is a global brand.
Right.
They cater to a diverse customer base, and their internal memo stating they don't endorse any political candidate speaks volumes about their desire to remain neutral.
You're right. I remember that memo. We are not red or blue. We are golden, they said.
Exactly.
But can they really stay above the political fray when you have a figure like Trump using their brand as a backdrop for his campaign?
It's going to be tough, that's for sure. The situation has the potential to become highly politicized.
Right.
With people associating McDonald's with one side or the other, regardless of the company's intentions.
And how could that impact them, do you think?
Well, think about it this way. In today's world, consumers are increasingly making choices based on their values. And any perceived alignment with a polarizing figure could alienate a significant portion of their customer base.
So it's not just about containing the outbreak and managing the stock price. It's about navigating a public relations minefield where every move they make could be scrutinized and interpreted through a political lens.
Precisely. And that's what makes this situation so compelling, you know?
Yeah.
It's a perfect storm of challenges that puts McDonald's crisis management skills to the ultimate test.
All right, so let's play this out a bit.
Okay.
What are some potential scenarios here? Worst case scenario, what's the biggest risk for McDonald's?
Well, aside from the obvious health risks associated with the outbreak itself, the worst-case scenario would be a complete erosion of public trust.
Right.
If the outbreak spreads further or if there are more fatalities, the negative publicity could reach a tipping point, leading to boycotts, long-term damage to the brand, and potentially even legal ramifications.
Yikes. Lawsuits on top of everything else. That's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
But let's look at the flip side. What does a successful outcome look like for McDonald's in this situation?
Well, in a best-case scenario, they quickly identify and contain the source of the contamination, limit the spread, and demonstrate complete transparency throughout the process.
Right.
Clear, consistent communication with the public is key. They need to show they're taking this seriously, doing everything possible to ensure the safety of their customers, and cooperating fully with the authorities.
So basically, own the mistake, fix it, and be upfront with everyone about what happened and how they're going to prevent it from happening again.
Exactly. They need to be proactive, not reactive. And on the political front, they might have to double down on their message of neutrality, maybe even issue a public statement reiterating that they don't endorse any candidate and that their restaurants are a place for everyone.
So damage control and a whole lot of reassurance.
Yeah.
But do you think they can really disentangle themselves from the Trump connection at this point? The photo op is already out there?
It's going to be difficult. No doubt the news cycle moves fast, but images tend to stick in people's minds.
Yeah.
The association, fair or not, has been made. They'll need a very carefully crafted PR strategy to navigate this.
It's a high-stakes game they're playing, that's for sure. But, you know, this whole situation, it raises some broader questions about how companies, especially global giants like McDonald's, navigate the increasingly complex intersection of business and politics.
That's a great point. We're seeing this play out more and more these days. You know, consumers are becoming more politically aware and discerning, and they expect the brands they support to reflect their values.
So in a way, McDonald's is almost a case study in how to or how not to handle this kind of situation.
Exactly. It's a lesson for all businesses, really. They need to understand that in today's hyper-connected world, even seemingly unrelated events can collide and create a crisis that requires careful planning and execution to overcome.
So what's your take on this? How do you think McDonald's will handle this multifaceted challenge? Will they be able to separate the E. coli crisis from the political spotlight?
Well, that's a million-dollar question, isn't it? Only time will tell how this plays out. It's like a real-life thriller.
Yeah.
We're all just waiting to see what twists and turns come next.
And speaking of twists and turns,
Yeah.
you know what else this situation makes me think about? It makes me think about the whole concept of food safety,
Right.
you know, and how complex our food supply chains have become.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about a global network of farms, processing plants, distributors, and restaurants.
Yeah.
It makes you realize just how vulnerable we are to these kinds of outbreaks.
Absolutely. And this case really highlights the critical importance of traceability. Being able to quickly identify the source of the contamination is crucial for containing the outbreak and preventing further illnesses.
So what does this mean for the future of food safety? Do you think we'll see any changes in regulations or industry practices as a result of this outbreak?
Oh, I think it's highly likely. You know, after the Chipotle outbreak in 2015, we saw increased scrutiny on food safety practices. And I expect this case will have a similar impact.
Okay.
We might see stricter regulations, more frequent inspections, and a greater emphasis on technology-driven solutions for tracking and monitoring ingredients throughout the supply chain.
That makes sense. And what about consumers? Do you think this will have a lasting impact on how we view fast food and food safety in general?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's certainly possible. You know,
Yeah.
events like this can erode consumer trust.
Right.
It often takes time and effort to rebuild that trust. We might see a shift towards more transparency and a demand for greater accountability from food companies.
So potentially a move towards more locally sourced ingredients, farm-to-table concepts, that kind of thing.
Potentially, yes, consumers might start paying closer attention to where their food comes from and how it's handled.
Right.
We've already seen a growing trend towards organic and sustainable food options, and this could accelerate that movement.
Yeah, it's like this whole situation is forcing us to reevaluate our relationship with food.
In a way, yes, it's a reminder that food is not just a commodity, it's something that directly impacts our health and well-being.
Okay, so we've talked about food safety, we've talked about politics, and now we're talking about a potential shift in consumer behavior. This McDonald's story really does have far-reaching implications.
And it's a story that's still unfolding.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see how McDonald's navigates this challenge and what the long-term consequences will be. But one thing is for sure, this is a valuable case study for all businesses, large and small.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of proactive crisis management, transparent communication, and a deep understanding of the interconnected nature of business politics and public perception.
It's a reminder that in today's world, every decision a company makes can have ripple effects that extend far beyond the immediate situation.
And that's why it's so crucial for companies to think strategically, act responsibly, and be prepared for the unexpected. Because, as we've seen with this McDonald's case, sometimes even a seemingly simple photo op can turn into a major crisis.
Well said, TalkTickers listeners. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from E. coli outbreaks to presidential photo ops to the future of food safety. We'll continue to follow this story and keep you updated on any new developments. But in the meantime, we encourage you to stay informed, stay vigilant, and as always, think critically about the information you consume.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about the forces shaping the business world, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions as consumers and investors.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged.
We'll see you on the next one.